The winter meetings are here, and so are we, Arden Zwelling, Ben Nicholson-Smith, and Shi Davidi from Sportsnet.ca. And today we are thinking about the question of what the biggest priority for the Toronto Blue Jays should be, not only this week at the winter meetings, but throughout the offseason. Where should they be looking to make the biggest upgrade to their roster this offseason? And I'll start off, fellas, because when I think about the Blue Jays' stated priorities this winter, they have said they want to improve run prevention, they want to improve strike throwing, and they want to add as much impact, as many wins as possible. And when I think about those three factors in conjunction, I keep coming back to the catching position because it checks all those boxes. You want to improve your run prevention? Well, get a good game calling catcher. That does that. You want to improve your strike throwing? Get a good pitch framing catcher. Suddenly you're throwing more strikes. You want to make a big impact on wins? Well, JT Realmuto, the best catcher available on the free agent market, does just that. We don't always mention him in this breath, but over the last two seasons, so since the beginning of 2019, he has 7.5 wins above replacement. George Springer has 8.5, and DJ LeMahieu has 8. So he is in that conversation. He is among the elite players in baseball. And really what he does might actually be a little bit more special because of how rare that production is at his position. You just don't see that many catchers who put up the big OPS numbers that Realmuto does, that have the strong strikeout and walk rates, the sneaky speed on the base pass that he possesses, on top of being an athletic defender who's going to make your entire pitching staff better. It's just a very rare commodity. And I get it. On paper, the Blue Jays have a lot of depth at the catching position. They have 5 on their 40-man roster. So it's not as obvious of a gap to fill as maybe the infield or the outfield, but Realmuto is a guy who can play some first base for you. He's a guy who can play a little bit of left field for you. You can still be committed to Danny Jansen catching 2-3 times a week, continuing to develop and really being one of the best second string catchers in baseball. You've just made your roster that much deeper, and now you can consider spending some of that young catching coming up through the minors like Alejandro Kirk and like Gabby Moreno in trade to try to acquire starting pitching and make your pitching staff that much better. So if I'm trying to address as many of my offseason priorities as possible, I think that JT Realmuto is my guy. I'm going out, I'm getting my franchise catcher. Ben, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what position you would be targeting this offseason.
Well, look, if Realmuto was available and the Jays can get him, that would be great. So I think that, I like the way you're going there, Arden. It makes a lot of sense. That being said, I think that if you're looking for ways to improve this team, and if you only could improve in one area, which is a little bit of a false construct, but we'll go with it here. I think that in that situation, you need pitching. You could get by with the position players that they have. They have a very good core, offensively speaking. This group is capable of putting a lot of runs on the board. We saw that last year, and that's even without a full season from Bo Bichette. Even without a full season from Alejandro Kirk, they still score a lot of runs. And defensively, they were not good last year, and they need to improve. But some of that improvement can come from within, with guys like Vlad Jr. improving. So I think the position player core, while not perfect, is good enough to win with. But the pitching staff needs a lot of help. And I think that's the case almost every year. We saw it last year when they went out and got Hyunjin Ryu and Tanner Roark. I think that's the case this year. And there are guys out there. It's not a deep class beyond Trevor Bauer, but you could look to the trade market where guys like Sonny Gray and Lance Lynn are available. Yu Darvish potentially. Try to improve in that way because it's going to be a long season, whether it's 162 or somewhere in that range. You're going to need a lot of innings. And even right now, you start looking at that starting 5. Toward the back of it, you get to names like Tanner Roark and Julian Merriweather at the major league level, and there's room to improve there. So it's not to say that they couldn't benefit from a guy like Realmuto, but they absolutely do need to add more pitching before the offseason ends.
Hard to argue with that, Ben, because I'm not sure any team in MLB history has ever had quite enough starting pitching. They're always looking for pitching, relief pitching as well. But Shi, where do you stand on this issue? What position would you be targeting this offseason?
Look, with some of the names that you guys have been discussing and some of those thoughts, there's really no answer here. But I will point out that there is one hole among their position player group, and that is for an infielder. The non-tendering of Travis Shaw left a hole. They have a roster spot that they need to fill there with another position player. And unless you're content to have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. play as your everyday third baseman next year, and I'm not convinced that's going to be the case, and I don't think there's enough time for him to necessarily convince the Blue Jays that he's ready to carry that load, they have to fill that gap. And so, this is a guy that I've been stumping for from the get-go, DJ LeMahieu. I think he fits a number of the Blue Jays' needs, both from an offensive and a defensive standpoint. He can play third, he can play second, he can play first. He's a top of the lineup bat. He hits for batting average. He hits for contact. He has some power. It's a professional at bat. It's a grown-up for the clubhouse, a good, steady, calming presence who can be an important leader as this group develops. He checks a lot of the boxes of things that Ross Atkins has said that the Blue Jays would like to get there as well. And so I really think that if he's the guy who can be lured away from New York, and the expectation is he likely returns to the Yankees, but look, he was raised in Detroit or outside Detroit. He still lives in suburban Detroit. Toronto would be like a home game for him. And so I think that creates a bit of an opportunity for the Blue Jays if they can get in there. And he's such a dynamic presence. He brings them so many different things. I think he unlocks a lot of roster flexibility for them if you can add a player like him or somebody else in his ilk.
Yeah, really no bad options there, as discussed by Shai and Ben and myself, and no lack of options still available on the market because we haven't seen that much activity just yet. But we are looking forward to what should be an active and we hope busy winter meetings this week. You can read all about it on sportsnet.ca.